Thomas, how do we pronounce your name in English?
Bideguain.
Thomas Bideguain. Ouais, en français, c'est Bideguain.
Bideguain, exactement.
Where does that name come from? Norman?
It's Basque. No, it's Basque. It means the end of the road in Basque.
Really?
Yeah. That's how it all started, because I have a big older brother, and when we were watching westerns when we were a kid, he always said, "Look at the Indians and imagine they're the Basque." And so that's how it started, because when you think you can portray a community, use a community to portray another one, then you get a sense of what a metaphor can do.
When you say that's where it all started, do you mean your filmic imagination, your writer's imagination?
Yes, no, and I mean Cowboy. The film Cowboy started there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's start with Cowboys, because that's why you're here, which is congratulations at the London Film Festival. It was in the Directors' Fortnight in Cannes as well, and I missed it there. And one of those films that you miss and you think, oh, I've got other things to see in competition. And then I said, oh, but you should have seen Cowboys, and I missed it. So I'm so delighted to catch it here at the London Film Festival. A film like that, which is very French and yet has so much kind of, as you say, American soul to it as well. Mythic landscapes, Stetson hats, line dancing, and a Western storyline, if you like. It reminded me of John Ford, if I may say, The Searchers.
Yes, absolutely. It starts like that. It starts a bit like a take on The Searchers. There have been a lot of takes on The Searchers in the 70s and in the 80s, movies like Hardcore, or even maybe Taxi Driver could be seen as one, because it's the story of a veteran. And I decided I will use that to tell the story that is the story of our First World War, the World War that took place, not the one of our grandparents, the one that we've been through during the first years of that century. And it seemed to me that to portray what people referred to as a war of civilization at that time, like the cowboy and Indian metaphor, will work.
Yeah, well, I mean, East versus West, if you like, two civilizations are clashing. It's when you do a film like this, and I have to say, I didn't know going into it what it was about. I could see there was a searchers thing going on, because as soon as the guy's daughter disappears, you think, all right, he's off to look for her. But it seemed to me that this is the story of our time, but also the most dangerous story to treat on screen in public of our time. How were you going to do this? The bravery involved, the trouble involved.
Well, it's a weird thing, because of course it's the story of a father looking for his daughter, and she went to the Jihad. And I read about the Jihad and the first wave of people going and converting and going to fight the Western civilization somehow. When I was studying for another film, and it was right after the first wave was right after the Yugoslavian war in the early 90s. And so I thought that's a good idea, and use that metaphor that those guys, because they believe they're cowboys, then you will think that the other ones, the Muslim, they will see them as the Indians. And so I will work on that metaphor. But at that time, there was nobody was talking about the Jihad. It was 4 or 5 years ago. There was no Daesh, there was no ISIS, and there was no Jihad. And so it was very weird, because it's right after we wrote the first or the second draft of the film. Then we were reading in the press things that we had imagined. It was very weird, and we got pretty scared at that time. Pretty scared that the subject matter will be too big and will eat up the film.
So not just too big from a structural point of view, but also what about too hot from a political point of view?
Absolutely, too hot from a political point of view. That was our concern, because. And also that people would say that we are opportunists and they were using, what we read in the papers to make a film.
Yeah.
It was actually the opposite. It was the other way around. And when people ask me, have you done research? Actually, the research came to us as we were writing, as we were reading in the press scenes that we had written, and or see images. When the father starts looking for his daughter, he finds a little notebook, a school notebook, where the daughter does Arabic exercise exercise of writing. And I saw in Libération, the newspaper, I called my co-writer, Noé Debré. I called him. I said, look, Libération, there was a picture of the exact same notebook with the same exercise that a mother was showing, and a mother of a daughter of 17-year-old daughter who had gone, leaving a note that say, je suis parti pour un pays en guerre. I've left for a country at war. And we will see this exact same thing. It was crazy.
So there was, obviously with this, and you see it repeated, there's a movement, a handbook, a guide. There's a structure to this. It's not common, but it's not random. This act of radicalization, this kind of I would say conversion, but it's not. It's a choice that the person is making. You're seeing it repeated. So your movie follows a kind of strict pattern in a way.
Yes, but I think that the others went into. If my generation, she would have come here to London and take drugs in some squat in the 80s, or earlier, 20 years before, she would have gone to San Francisco exactly, and make love with everybody. There's always a way to say goodbye to your parents, and they will be and leave them puzzled. All children are always. They all become a mystery at one point, and I think that's what the story is about at the end of the day. It's what do you do when your children grow up? Do you try to hold on to everything and the risk of losing everything? That is what the father will do, or do you try to understand and...
The younger generation, her brother, for example, who becomes, not to spoil your story, the story becomes his story as well, which I love. The three. Your movie confuses me. It doesn't do what you expect, which is bravo to the movie.
Which is what I like in films, is when the things are not what they appear to be, and the film is not what it appears to be. So I really like that. And sometimes I find some films to be very formatted narratively, and I think that now, because the people are used to that because of the series and things like that, people can deal with more challenging narratives.
Yeah, and I think we can work it. But in your movie also, I have to say, you start. It feels like a very current story, the radicalization and people going off to Syria or Afghanistan. And then when the father's looking for the daughter, and he's on the phone, and he's shouting for the phone, and he's in a pay phone. And I was thinking, why hasn't he just got his cell phone? Because there was nothing to tell me that this was in fact the 90s. And then you have the Twin Towers happen. And, so you even left me a bit surprised there, and suddenly I worked out, okay, this is a longer story.
Because I think that what I wanted to the audience to feel is that there's you see the September 11, the towers, and there was before and there's after. And then, at one point we didn't know much. And I also wanted to tell that story of people who get thrown in the turmoil of the world, regular guys who get thrown in that, and they don't understand. So it was important, even in terms of direction, not to show anything that not to show anything that the characters don't see.
The adventure that the father, I say adventure, the terrible journey that the father goes on, is that a research journey? Have you spoken to people who sort of did that, going to look for their daughters being pushed to Antwerp, to Denmark, to Holland, to an all-consuming journey that eventually can turn tragic?
I've talked to some people about it, and but actually, as I was saying, there was more as we were writing that there were more and more testimonies in the papers about that, and we found out, they just came out with a anti-jihad campaign in France, and the anti-jihad campaign is just that. It's just ads with testimonies of fathers, mothers, and that is of brothers even. So it's really what the film tells us, and you can tell. I wanted to tell the story of that community that is completely, which destiny will be completely changed because of because Kelly left, and it will not only affect the father or the family; it will affect the entire community. And that
could affect the entire world as well, because her actions are now that of perhaps a terrorist. We're not sure, but you can link her to anything. My impression is that she's an itinerant member of various cells, but I don't know. She's also a mother, so
yeah, exactly. But that's what happened. Is that we can tell the story of our community. It's very difficult to tell the story of the people who leave, because I don't know why they do that, and it's very complicated to tell that. But what I can tell is the story of the people who stay, because this is us. The movie starts with a big Western reunion and with the people singing, and there are a lot of them in France, and there are a lot of them in Germany, in Switzerland,
and in the UK.
Yeah, there you go. And this community, it's us. It's really what it is. And then later on in the film, you have the same community, same cowboy reunion, and it's seen through the eyes of the brother, and in the middle of that community, of the middle of that Western reunion where people have their 10-gallon hats, and there's a woman with a veil. And when you to show that image, it's our community that you're showing. We are a Western community. It's like us. We're dressed more or less like Americans, not
more stylishly, I'd have to say, Thomas.
Extremely stylishly. But it's a shame that people would not see how stylish we are. But no, it's our community. We are the Westerners, and there's a woman with a veil in the middle of our little reunion. So people will react differently. Some will try to rip off a veil. Some will fall in love with her. And what you see in the film is the sheriff, who's supposed to be the authority of that operette, who's completely speechless, who's absolutely helpless and doesn't know what to do.
Congratulations on, of course, winning. You didn't win the Palme d'Or for Dheepan. It goes to Jacques Audiard, but it's for the film. It's not just a metteur en scène prize or a screenplay prize. It's everything. So congratulations, because you wrote that with Jacques. What did that feel like to win the Palme d'Or? First of all, for a French cineast, for a French cinema man to win the Palme d'Or.
It is extremely moving. Really, it is a very moving moment, because it's really the rooftop of the world, when you make films. So no, it was great, and to get it from the Coen brothers, it was just even better. So no, we love that, and but we had that. It was Sunday night, and then we took Monday off, and on Tuesday we kept on working.
You're working with Jacques on a new screenplay?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, what's that one?
Oh, it's an adaptation of a book called Sisters Brothers. Oh. And it's about two killers during the gold rush. It's set in 1851.
In America?
Yeah. And two killers who go from Oregon and they are brothers, sisters brothers, and they go from Oregon to San Francisco, and where the gold was supposed to be, and following one guy but they're fearless killers.
Right. This is in English language?
I guess it will be, yes, at one point. In a lot of languages, because it's very early stage in the construction of America. Oregon wasn't part of America. California wasn't part of the United States neither. And that's the thing about the Western. This would be a real Western. And that each Western gives you a state of the nation. It's always like that. So if each good Western, all the John Ford, they will tell you, if it's the beginning, the Constitution of the United States, or the war against the Indians, or the Civil War, or the moments of the cattle. So it's always the state of the nation. And this is what I wanted to do with Cowboys. Give us a state of our nation. Can
I just ask you, you've worked with Jacques Audiard for quite a while now as a writer. Now you've gone off and directed your own movie. What have you learned from Jacques' filmmaking? Did he give you advice? Did he say, don't do it, you're mad? What did you pick up from seeing your words turned into his images?
He told me one thing. He told me that the writing is a job and directing is a state of mind. And that is absolutely true, because you have to put yourself in certain state to have the energy and to connect and to give that energy to other people, to pick up the flag and get there.
Yeah. Well, it is a fantastic journey, Cowboys, Les Cowboys. I'm going to translate for people, Cowboys. And it really is a completely surprising film, for which chapeau, I was going to say, take my hat off to you. And I wish you best of luck when it comes to the UK on release. But it's been a great pleasure to have you at the London Film Festival, Thomas. All those westerns that you watched with your brother back in the Basque country, it paid off.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for that.